The Nazi region was famous for its backdoor scientists and occult researchers, special explanatory divisions of which we often set out in search of artifacts or locations of the occult or religious significance. Meanwhile, in Germany, bunkers were assembled and many mansions and castles were fitted with labyrinths and dungeons that were filled with strange experiments and research notes. Whenever the Allies found these places, we were often gutted, burned, or otherwise destroyed and abandoned. Whenever a lab was found intact, the research was often incoherent or missing, or later destroyed by aliens to prevent the Nazis from recovering any hidden data. A lot of the experiments were kept under the radar. Until recently, veterans who had served as guards at the lab and ritual zones have been explained what they have seen, or folders that look like they've been uncovered in boxes and crates belonging to the scientists. A fair share view of these few common research goals. Exactly the true power is often up to debate, as it appears that often described in the research as immortality, unable to die, invincibility, or many other factors surrounding losing the capability to die in some way or another. A larger part of the research was actually legitimately based on certain doses of chemical compounds to aid blood flow in aging people. First, these concepts were now used in today's transplant surgery, grafting, ointments and that renewed skin, antibodies that various diseases, and fitness dieting research. However, one set of crates was discovered in Hamburg in 1999, went off the way of his search style. This stuff crossbred the occult experiments and immorality research. The introductory folders and proofs of the concept with research began with the principle that the brain controls with the body completely and wholly, and even the body slowly degrades around it. It continues to function. Further statements say that the reason that the body is left to degrade is because the human brain is set to a biological timer, which such as the butterflies that can only live a day, yet other insects that often can last longer. The brain tells us to die. It is proposed to that, and the brain grows. It begins to make connections, resulting in the human becoming more mature and having an advancing brain. At the age of 55 to 50, however, these connections slowly break down, resulting in forgetfulness, dementia, and other mental diseases that are reserved for the elderly. The scientists proposed a brain that is an universal kill switch that activates as soon as the brain was fully developed. In all the normal humans, this kill switch will initiate the shutdown sequence in bodily functions, which will occur every several decades. As soon as the body is fully shut down, the brain will be forced to die and for the lack of oxygenated blood. With that said, Werner's syndrome, a disease where people ages rapidly, is a result of the kill switch function for activating far too early. The proposed that they could remove the kill switch and that had give the human mind immortality. From that is complete immortality. Needless to say, the brain surgery was incredibly difficult during those times, but it was possible. In the stacks of folders there were many different diagrams and the past research on the brain, physiologically, the human mind, and the alike. The experiments were initially proposed to the executives in 1940, and permission was granted to perform the experiments in 1942 under one condition. These experiments must be conducted outside of Germany. The German populace must not see this experiment in any way, shape, or form. There was no surprise to the scientists that the executives were paranoid about the public realizations, but the idea of performing the research outside of the fatherland was foreign in itself. Most experiments were performed in the bunkers or basements. Regardless, the scientists complied and were able to organize a setup with their ally in Japan. In late 1942, the research had begun, and that's where it got strange. The research team had taken over the Japanese orphanage, and the orphanage was on the hills, supposedly somewhere in Shimane, but in the nearby Hiroshima. The scientists deducted that if they tried to take the usual test subjects, old or diseased people with nothing left to live for, similar fashion to the gateway of the mind. They would be playing with the variable disease, or more importantly, they would be experimenting on the brain that has already been an activated kill switch, rendering it useless of the context of finding the solution. As a result, the, not, the scientists demanded that the children, namely the orphans in the orphanage, which are deemed to, again, have nothing else to live for, would become test subjects to their young brains, eliminated by any cause of concern, when already activated, the kill switch. To begin the experiments, the children went through numerous immunizations and intense psychological testing to ensure that they would prevent any defects and keep the general benchmark for their subjects. The next day, they would begin with the older staff of the orphanage. Put under an anesthetic, the surgeons opened up their skulls to find a good cross-section for the adult brain, and to find the key difference between it and the child's brain. After getting a model of both brain and child and adult brain, the scientists deducted that the universal kill switch wasn't located in the brain, but the cerebellum. Located near the cerebellum commands all subconscious activity in the brain, which is understandable, since it isn't a conscious action to set off the kill switch. Similarly, they took the tallest child to the orphanage and began to tear her up. They were about to begin to perform their first kill switch ignominy. They had managed to open up the cerebellum and remove the part presumably to be the kill switch. However, upon closing the subject up, they found that she had expired. They assumed that the incisions of the brain had been too brash, required for far more precaution. The body was dumped in the forest behind the orphanage. After imports of different tools and different techniques developed, the scientists were finally able to remove the kill switch successfully to revive the patient in May of 1943. They had taken one of the youngest girls from the orphanage and to remove the kill switch. The only function she lost was the ability to sweat, and after the assumed success, the scientists had celebrated, after which everyone went to sleep. The next morning, the girl did not wake up and was revealed to be comatose. After a while, she was revived successfully, and the kill switch ectomoses continued. If the initial success gave the doctors a new state of mind, wanted the refreshment, they will be able to continue their experiments with the ease of mind that theory was proven, so well they assumed. Before the doctors continued their removal research, they commissioned several doctors in from Moscow, which have been trained in the practice bodily revival, technically zombification. However, it relies on the principles by using electric shocks and artificial hearts to power the body back up. They stated that the reason for this was that the original subject had always become comatose or clinically dead whenever she went to sleep and then revived herself the next morning. She had no signs of this behavior before the experiment, and despite the fact that she was revived, the doctors could not want to risk a success turning into a failure. The Russian scientists were put to the task of bringing her back to life whenever she expired. After several days of this, they concluded that it was safe to continue. Project Venom was a Russian experiment to create super soldiers from the fury that Dr. Frankenstein. It also may be a form of basis from the Marvel superhero as well. As a repayment for the use of Russian scientists, Russia had asked that they combine the research Project Venom with the Germany's ongoing experiments. Naturally, they agreed. However, limited under number of orphans that were deliberating, as the Germans required to do so many of them, they can only offer a single girl. The Russians were contempt, and they began their proof of concept. They had artificially found an arm and created all over Moscow, which was on its way to the orphanage to be grafted on to prove that amputation and replacement could work. In the meantime, the Russians had to prepare for this. The girl's right arm was amputated. Mysteriously shortly after, the Russian scientists packed up their equipment and left. The replacement arm never came, and the girl was left with bandage strapped all over her chemio perpetually. The Russians said that they have left her fearful haste, but as if suddenly the air had turned too cold for their tastes. One child was out of the orphanage, did not approve of the scientist's presence. In her acts of rebellion, she stole the paperwork and ripped it into shreds, broke glassware, and wrecked the surgery theaters. Despite her young age at 8 years old and size, she surprisingly had a capacity for destruction. It was noted in the journal that she was heterochromic, as well as brown with blue eyes from left to right. The senior scientists despised her, but could not restrain her without arousing suspicion. Instead, they ordered the German soldiers to take care of her. She was brutally beheaded with a blunt bayonet, and she was not buried. She was just left in the woods behind the orphanage. The soldiers told the caretakers that she found a new family. The German scientists attempt to play around with their successful experiment by trying different aspects to do it. Sadly, none of them worked. Here is a list of them. Entry through the forehead, performed by a 10-year-old boy. Skull was deformed and the boy had been vitally lobotomatized by the end of it. However, he wasn't vegetative as a result, although he was mentally retarded due to the experiment. Every entry through the lower jaw, performed by a 6-year-old girl. Tongue almost flesh out of the lower jaw was removed and could not be replaced. The subject's sinuses were also scrambled. Entry through the long side of the head. Subject was reluctantly half-deaf. It should also be noted that there was no anesthetic during this surgery, and the screams were truly mortifying. Most journals read. Despite the failure of these, the kill switches were still removed, and the subjects had acted much the same way as the first girl, expiring upon sleep. However, they were reduced to 10 people due to all their failures, this including caretakers, and they had performed surgery on all the children. The doctors began to formulate ideas that the child, a kill switch isn't already activated, but in an adult, that the kill switch cannot be reversed during a chemical compound to eliminate the hormone produced and the kill switch to be removed. This was performed in all caretakers, was surprisingly successful as they all survived. During the experiments, scientists were told to watch over the successful children and monitor their behavior. This part gets freaky. They appear normal at first, just like all the other children, playing and cheering, learning normally. But when they're separated from the others, they seem off, as they scroll carelessly around, with a blank smile on their faces, their eyes looking straight at you. If you approach them from behind, their heads snap around with ungodly speed for a moment. You can almost see an expression on the vial of their face that makes you want to cower. But then you realize that they were just forming their dreamy smile again. Another thing is that they follow us, but only when we're on our own. After finishing up on my typewriter and heading to my room, I often been frightened by one of the children, standing several meters down the dark hallway, staring at me. When I go off to my room, she follows me, and I shut my door, jam a chair behind it, and then I sleep safely. It feels like they're just ghosts at one night at a time, and the funny thing is, I keep seeing one child with reddish hair. I keep asking who the child is the next morning, but the caretakers say they haven't had a child with reddish hair for a while. They also seem to be playing a game a lot more than what we started. I haven't got to know much knowledge about Japanese, but it's this game called Circle U, described by one of the translators. A group of children surrounded one child, who sits in the center alone. They link arms and begin to move in a circular manner around the child, making scary faces at them and singing an eerie chant. If you lose, you flinch. Upon talking to them, I have noticed that they all seem dreamy and forgetful and somewhat blank, as if their experiments wiped their memories as well. But it's not an innocent type of dreamy, rather something more sinister. They stare at you with wide eyes and ask you questions that you never thought they would know. One asked, "When your grandmother died, did she really leave you the gold-plated watch?" It may seem crazy, but my honest answer was yes. Kagome means circle, circle, and the game translates to circle you, circle you. The child who rebelled against the scientists had reddish hair. In early 1945, Hiroshima was bombed by German forces, and the experiment went ground to a halt. The Germans began packing up their equipment. Most of them already have returned to home due to their mental welfare. Stating that they showed signs of insanity, only 4 scientists remained. After seeing the last set of equipment off, the scientists deemed it was just only justified so they can inform their caretakers, and that they were leaving while they did so. And the horror of one of the scientists and surprise of the rest, the head caretaker said, in fluent German, "Will you play one last game with us?" The free scientists agreed, and the circle of children and caretakers formed around them. Now if you flinch, you lose. The horrified scientists ran to the last truck and jumped on it without looking back. If you go to Hiroshima, go around the woods and you may find some dirt and trails there. If you travel down them, you'll see beautiful forests. But if you travel one that has signs of trucks going through, you will feel the cold, and you will see a lot of trees cut down. But don't wander from the path, or you're likely to get lost in the vast of the woods. If you pay attention, you will notice the tree stumps looking like kneeling people missing heads. If you continue, the air will get cold, naturally because you're climbing up a hill, right? Of course, eventually you will reach a clearing with an old stone building in the center, vines covering the place. Go inside if you want to play. As soon as you open the door, a foul smell will come out, similar to that of a rotting corpse. If you look down the hall, it will be dark regardless by any time, since you are there with no lights. Continue down the hall, take the first left, and then go down the hall until you see one door that appears to be made out of red-colored wood. The rest are brown. Open the door and you'll find 10 happy children and caretakers, wearing kimonos, playing a normal playroom. One is missing her arm, another is missing her forehead, and a third lacks a jaw, but they're all bandaged up with clinical precision. The place should be very clean and tidy, depending on your standard of such things, and it will let. At once your presence will draw the attention of everyone in the room, including ones that look far too preoccupied or distracted. They will turn to look at you, carefree smiles from each other pleasant faces. The head of the caretaker in all beauty will ask, "Will you come and play with us?" By this time you haven't soiled your pants. You really should, to save the trouble later. If you say no, the door will slam shut on you. If you try to go down the hallways to exit out, you will only find another darker hallway. Open any of the brown doors and you should find operating tables or bunk beds. If you continue down the third hallway, you will realize that the girl is standing several meters from behind you, face shrouded by shadow. Approach it and expect your doom. Continue down the hallway and try not to let it catch up with you. If you say yes, however, you will be welcomed into the room. The door will close behind you, and everyone will form a circle around you. Sit down and don't flinch. A cheery voice will say, "Just follow the instructions and you'll survive." A light will disappear from your room, and yet you see a circle of children, with each vicious expressions on their faces, one so vile you'll probably flinch straight up. If you can stomach that, though, they will begin to move around you. Slowly you may feel one of them lash towards you. If you look, however, there will be nothing else besides children circling normally. If that isn't enough, they will begin chanting in Kagome, Kagome. I can't really explain any further. No one ever lives to tell the tale of what happens then. If you flinch before they chant, they simply continue as normal. If you choose to say maybe to the head caretaker, or anything other than yes or no, it is told that the children's expressions will turn mortifying, zoolotic almost, and they will scream in inhuman voices, "Decide! Decide!" If you do anything else by saying yes or no from there, it is told that the children and the caretakers will slam the door on you. If you turn around and the story varies, supposedly your worst fear will be waiting at the other end of the hallway, separating you from the exit. Most notably, the character is aka Manto or the Rake. The least you can do is greet the creature before it tears to you in obligation. If he has the capacity, he may respond, and you will die a polite person. Don't greet him, and you'll end up in another one beheaded bodies along the trail. If you do respond, "I don't understand. You must be Janine," and the caretaker will say, "Go to your school and watch your children play. You should understand that." Nothing will have changed, and close the door on your way out. It's a common courtesy. Most creepypastas are pretty much fabricated, some from psychological stigma, others are revamped in ghost stories, but there is a small percentage of creepypastas which aren't like this. These are true creepypastas, and it's not to say that there are higher class original pastas, which spawned forth others. It just means they're real. Germany did send a research team to Japan to experiment in the immorality via the brain, and they did the experiment on the children in an orphanage. Well, that was Kagome, a creepypasta. This one is pretty much like a experimental ritual pasta. I'm just getting all those vibes as I'm going along. My final thoughts on this story? Well, it's a pretty good creepypasta. I remember Mr. Creepypasta actually narrated this story, and I gotta say it was pretty interesting. The concept of it looked pretty good. The story was awesome. The grammar was pretty good. I gotta really say, the grammar was really good. And it's a really great story. Although, I did remember hearing a narration of this a couple times from Mr. Creepypasta as well as a couple other narrators. And I decided, you know what, maybe I should give this one a go. So, I did, and it's a pretty good story. I highly recommend this one. I know I could definitely say that there was some stuff that did not really make sense in the story, but it was still pretty good. I still enjoyed it. So, with that being said, and that being the case, I personally really gotta say it's a great story involving research. It's a really well made creepypasta. There's definitely a lot of time and effort into it, and I personally enjoyed the story. I thought it was really good. So, in my honest opinion, this is definitely an awesome story, and I highly recommend you guys check this one out if you haven't. I will leave a link in the description down below for any of you guys who are, wanting to see. So, yeah. With that being said and that being the case, I personally enjoyed this story. I thought it was well made. It's a good story. I do recommend it. So, with that being said, I don't have anything that I did not like about this story. I can't seem to find what I did not like about this story. But I also have to really say that this one was definitely fun to read. I had fun enjoying reading this story. It's definitely a good one. And with that being said, I really enjoyed this story. I thought this one was enjoyable. It was well made in detail. It's got great concept, and I personally enjoyed it. So with that being said, and that being the case, pretty good story. Although I do not know who the original author of the story is, so I am going to leave this as anonymous for now. If I ever find out who the original author of this story is, I'll be sure to give the author proper credit. But right now, I'll just leave it as anonymous for now. If the original author for this story comes on my channel, he or she or they them whoever, if they see this video, I would like them to comment on the video and let me know, um let me know who they are so I can be sure to give them proper credit. Great story. I definitely gotta say it. I remember Mr. Creepypasta read this one, and it's a pretty good story. I personally enjoyed it. So I'll give the link in the description down below for any of you guys who are interested in checking out this story. And as always, with that being said and that being the case, I can't say anything I don't really like I said before. I couldn't see anything I did not like about this story. But this story was definitely a pretty good story. So, with that being the case and with that being said, what did you guys personally think of this story? So, leave me your thoughts down in the comments below. I give this story a 10 out of 10. It's a really great story. It's well made in detail and it's pretty awesome. So, yeah, like I said before, like I'm always going to say, this is just simply my own personal opinion. And if you happen to disagree with me, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is just simply my own personal thoughts. So, anyways, yeah, what did you guys personally think of this story? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better. Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're new to my channel, feel free to leave this video a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. For those who have DeviantArt, if you are interested in following me on DeviantArt, you are more than welcome to do so. Also, if you do happen to, follow me on DeviantArt, you are more than welcome to. Also, if you do have Twitter and you're interested in following me on Twitter, you can go follow me on Twitter. All the links to my Twitter and DeviantArt page are located on my About section page on my channel, so you'll be able to find that, as well as the next one, which will be known as, well, my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo. If you look at my about page section of my channel, you'll be able to find my backup channel. So you guys can go give my backup channel a follow if you like. So anyways, with that being said and that being the case, what did you guys personally think of this story? Did you enjoy it? But like I said, oh yeah, I said that already. Well, silly me. But anyways, yeah. Anyways, with that being said and that being the case, please roll the outro because I'm out here. And I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video. Peace out, and like always, roll the outro.